Every conspiracy has a weak link. Every lie has a crack where truth seeps through. For 3 months, Richard Whitmore's carefully constructed deception had held firm. But now, with evidence mounting and allies turning against him, his empire of lies was beginning to crumble. This is episode 7 of Drugged and Divorced, Unraveling the Conspiracy. Previously on Drugged and Divorced, Anthony revealed to Brittany that he was the father of her baby, that he'd been searching for her since that terrible night. Brittany felt betrayed by his deception, but Anthony provided crucial evidence. Recordings, photographs, financial documents proving Richard had orchestrated everything. At the pretrial conference, the judge ruled in Brittany's favor and referred the case for criminal prosecution. And in a moment of vulnerability, Brittany held Anthony's hand as they faced Richard together. Now, the final pieces of the puzzle fall into place as Richard's conspiracy completely unravels. With the judge's preliminary ruling, Jennifer had been able to access emergency funds from the Matthews estate to secure Brittany temporary housing. It wasn't much, a studio apartment in a modest building, but it was hers. No more shelter. No more shared rooms with 20 women. Just her own space. Brittany sat on her new second-hand couch, the unopened letter from Anthony in her hands. She'd been staring at it for 20 minutes, afraid to break the seal. "I remember you now." What did that mean? Their night together had been a blur of drugs and darkness. She didn't remember his face, his voice, anything specific. Did he remember her? Had the drugs affected him differently? Finally, she tore open the envelope and unfolded the handwritten pages. Welcome back to Urban Folks TV channel. Before we continue with this story, let us know in the comment section where you are watching from. And if you are new here, hit the like and subscribe button, and don't forget turn on your notification to get notified whenever we drop a video. Anthony's penmanship was surprisingly elegant, neat, controlled, like the man himself. "Dear Brittany, I don't know if you'll ever read this letter. I don't know if you'll ever forgive me for not telling you the truth sooner. But I need to write it anyway because there are things I need you to understand. I said I remember you now, and that's true. For weeks after that night, I had only fragments, flashes of images that made no sense. But recently, the memories have been coming back in more detail. The doctors say this is normal with Rohypnol. Sometimes the memories return gradually as the drug leaves your system completely. I remember your eyes. Even through the fog of whatever they gave us, I remember looking at you and seeing terror. I remember wanting to help you, to tell you it would be okay. But my body wouldn't obey my commands. I remember touching your face and feeling wetness. You were crying. I remember the overwhelming sense of wrongness, of violation, of being trapped in a nightmare I couldn't wake from. I also remember thinking, even in that drugged state, that you were beautiful. That whoever you were, you didn't deserve what was happening. That I wanted to protect you, even though I couldn't protect myself. When I woke up the next morning with no memory and evidence of what had happened, my first thought wasn't concern for my reputation or my business. It was concern for you, the woman whose face I couldn't quite remember but whose fear I couldn't forget. I hired investigators immediately, not to avoid scandal but to find you, to make sure you were okay. To understand what had been done to both of us. When I discovered you were Richard Whitmore's wife, that you were being systematically destroyed by the same man who'd used me in his scheme, I knew I had to help. Not out of guilt or obligation, but because that night created a bond between us. We're survivors of the same crime, parents of the same child, connected by trauma and biology and something I can't quite name. I should have told you the truth immediately. I know that now. I was wrong to wait, wrong to approach you as a benefactor when I should have approached you as what I am, the father of your baby and a fellow victim seeking justice. But Brittany, I want you to know that nothing I've done has been manipulation. Every dollar I've spent, every resource I've deployed, every moment I've invested in your case, it's all been genuine. I'm not trying to control you or take your baby. I'm trying to help you reclaim what's rightfully yours. And yes, I'm falling in love with you. I said it before and I'll say it again, because it's true. I love your strength, your compassion, your determination to build something good from something terrible. I love the way you protect our baby even though you're terrified. I love the way you refuse to be a victim even when the world has victimized you. I don't expect you to love me back. I don't even expect you to forgive me. But I hope someday you'll let me be a real father to our child. Not a biological donor. Not a distant financial supporter. But a present, engaged, loving father. And maybe, if I'm very lucky, you'll let me be something to you too. Not a savior or a benefactor, but a partner. An equal. Someone who understands your pain because he lived through it alongside you. I'm not asking for an answer now. Take all the time you need. But please know that I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Whatever you need, whenever you need it, I'm here. Yours, Anthony. P.S. I've been attending therapy to process what happened to us. My therapist suggested I might have PTSD from the drugging and assault. I wanted you to know that I'm doing the work to heal, just like I hope you are. We both deserve to heal. Brittany read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down her face. She'd been so angry at him for lying. But this letter showed her a man who was struggling just like she was, who'd been violated just like she had, who remembered her terror and wanted to help, even when he barely knew who she was. He was going to therapy. He was calling what happened to them an assault. He understood that they were both victims. And he loved her. She touched her stomach, feeling the slight curve of her 13-week baby bump. "Your father is a good man," she whispered. I think I might be falling in love with him too." Jennifer and Anthony sat across from Assistant District Attorney Rebecca Torres, who was reviewing the evidence with intense focus. Torres had a reputation for prosecuting powerful men who thought they were above the law. This case was exactly her specialty. "This is one of the most clear-cut cases of conspiracy to commit fraud I've seen," Torres said, setting down the documents. "We have Richard Whitmore on drugging 2 people, staging photographic evidence, embezzlement from a charitable foundation, and fraud in divorce proceedings. The photographer's testimony alone would be enough, but combined with the toxicology reports and financial records, this is a slam dunk." "What kind of sentence are we looking at?" Jennifer asked. "Drugging alone carries 5 to 15 years. Add in the fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy charges, we're looking at 20 to 30 years, potentially more if we can prove additional crimes." "What about Veronica Matthews?" Anthony asked. "She was complicit in everything. Her lawyer is claiming she was coerced by Richard, that she was afraid to speak up. It's a weak defense, but without direct evidence that she drugged Ms. Matthews or handled the embezzled funds, we might have to offer her a plea deal in exchange for testimony against Richard." "Absolutely not," Jennifer said firmly. "Veronica was an active participant. She helped drug Brittany. She helped stage the evidence. She celebrated afterwards. We have recordings of her admitting this." Torres nodded. "Then we'll include her in the charges. Conspiracy, aiding and abetting, accessory to assault. She's looking at 10 to 15 years. "Good." Anthony's voice was cold. "They both need to pay for what they did. Mr. James, I need to ask, are you prepared to testify? Your involvement will become public. There will be questions about the child Ms. Matthews is carrying. Your reputation could take a hit." "I don't care about my reputation. I care about justice for Brittany and making sure Richard and Veronica can never hurt anyone else." Torres smiled approvingly. "Good answer. We'll need you both to testify, you and Ms. Matthews. The trial is scheduled to begin in 3 weeks. I'll need you to prepare with my team, go over your testimony, practice cross-examination. Richard's lawyers will try to discredit both of you, claim you consented or that you're lying about the drugging. We need to be ready." "We'll be ready," Anthony said with conviction. Richard sat in what used to be Brittany's father's study, surrounded by legal documents and empty bottles of expensive scotch. His lawyers had just delivered devastating news. 3 of his business partners were pulling their investments, and 2 board members were calling for his resignation from multiple companies. The walls were closing in. Veronica burst into the study without knocking, her face flushed with panic. "They're offering me a plea deal. 10 years if I testify against you." Richard barely looked up. "You're not taking it." "Not taking it?" "Richard, they have recordings of us planning everything. They have the photographer's testimony. They have financial records of the embezzlement. We're finished. You're finished if you turn on me. My family has connections, Veronica. Connections you don't want to cross. If you testify against me, those connections will make your life very difficult. Prison will be the least of your worries. Veronica's eyes widened with fear. Are you threatening me? I'm promising you. We're in this together. You helped plan everything. You drugged your own stepsister. You stole from children's charities. If I go down, you go down harder because you betrayed family. You said we'd get away with this. You said it was foolproof. It was foolproof until that bastard Anthony James decided to play hero. How was I supposed to know the random drugged stranger who wandered into the house would turn out to be a billionaire with unlimited resources and a savior complex? What are we going to do? Richard poured himself another scotch. We're going to fight. My lawyers are good, the best money can buy. They'll discredit Brittany, make her look unstable. They'll suggest Anthony and Brittany conspired together to frame me. They'll paint me as the real victim here. A loving husband betrayed by an ungrateful wife. No one will believe that. The evidence. Evidence can be explained away. Recordings can be taken out of context. The photographer is a blackmailer, which makes him unreliable. The toxicology reports prove Brittany had drugs in her system, not that I gave them to her. It's all circumstantial. Veronica stared at him. You really think you can win this? I have to win this, because if I don't, I'm looking at 30 years in prison. And I won't let some spoiled little princess and her billionaire boyfriend destroy my life. What Richard didn't know was that his lead attorney had already started preparing his own exit strategy. Smart lawyers know when to abandon a sinking ship, and this ship was the Titanic. Brittany sat in a comfortable chair across from Dr. Sarah Kim, a trauma specialist Jennifer had recommended. This was her third session, and she was finally starting to open up about what had happened. Tell me about your feelings toward Anthony, Dr. Kim said gently. That's complicated. Most feelings are. But let's try to untangle them anyway. Brittany took a deep breath. I'm angry that he lied to me, but I understand why he did it. I'm grateful for his help, but I'm scared he's trying to control me. I'm attracted to him, but I don't know if I can trust him. I think I might be falling in love with him, but I'm terrified of being hurt again. That's a lot of conflicting emotions. Which one feels the strongest? The fear. I'm terrified of trusting the wrong person again. Richard seemed perfect in the beginning too. Charming, attentive, generous. And then he destroyed me. What if Anthony is the same? Do you genuinely believe Anthony is the same as Richard? Brittany thought about it honestly. No. Anthony was drugged just like me. He's been in therapy. He spent his own money helping me with no guarantee of return. He's nothing like Richard. But that doesn't make the fear go away. Fear is a protective mechanism. Kept you alert when you were in danger. But Brittany, you're not in danger anymore. Richard is facing criminal charges. You have legal protection. You have resources. You have people who genuinely care about you. At some point, you have to decide if you're going to let fear control your life, or if you're going to take a risk on something that might be good. What if I take that risk and get hurt? Then you'll survive just like you've survived everything else. But what if you take that risk and find happiness? What if Anthony really is a good man who wants to be a good father and a good partner? Don't you deserve to find out? Brittany touched her stomach. It's not just about me anymore. I have to think about the baby. And what's better for the baby? A mother who's too afraid to accept help and love? Or a mother who's brave enough to build a family, even if it's scary? Anthony's therapist, Dr. Michael Chun, sat across from him in the home office where they held their weekly sessions. You said you told Brittany you're falling in love with her, Dr. Chun observed. How did that feel? Terrifying, liberating, necessary. Anthony leaned back in his chair. I've never said those words to anyone before, but with Brittany they just came out. They were true, so I said them. And how did she respond? She ran. Can't say I blame her. I just revealed I'd been lying to her for weeks. Do you think you made a mistake telling her? No. The mistake was not telling her sooner. The mistake was thinking I could control how she found out, manage the situation to make it easier. I should have trusted her with the truth from the beginning. What are you afraid of, Anthony? Losing her before I ever really had her. Losing my child. Being shut out of my own baby's life because I was an idiot who tried to be a hero instead of just being honest. And what do you hope for? Anthony was quiet for a long moment. I hope that she'll give me a chance. Not because I'm wealthy or because I can help her, but because we have something real. Something worth exploring. I hope she'll let me be a father. I hope eventually she'll trust me. And I hope, his voice broke slightly, I hope she'll love me back. That's a lot of hope to pin on someone you barely know. I know her better than you think. I've watched her survive the worst circumstances imaginable with grace and strength. I've seen her put her baby first even when she's terrified. I've seen her build plans for helping other women even when she can barely help herself. I know her heart, Dr. Chin, and it's beautiful. Then show her yours. Not through money or resources or grand gestures. Just through honesty and presence and patience. That's what real love is. Brittany had texted Anthony asking to meet. He'd responded within seconds. Anywhere. Anytime. Just say where. Now they sat across from each other at a quiet coffee shop. Both nursing cups of tea. Brittany had switched to decaf for the pregnancy. I read your letter, Brittany said without preamble. Anthony's hands tightened around his cup. And I understand why you waited to tell me. I don't like it, but I understand it. You were trying to protect me from additional trauma. It was misguided, but your intentions were good. Brittany, let me finish. She took a breath.
I'm scared, Anthony.
I'm terrified of trusting you and being wrong. Richard destroyed me. I can't go through that again. I'm not Richard. I know. Logically, I know that. You're a good man who was used just like I was. You've spent months trying to help me, even when I had nothing to offer in return. You're going to therapy and doing the work to heal. You're nothing like Richard. But my heart doesn't care about logic. My heart is scared. And I need time to work through that fear before we can be anything more than co-parents? Yes. Anthony nodded slowly, disappointment clear on his face, but acceptance too. I can give you time, as much as you need. But Brittany, I meant what I said in that letter. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to pressure you or rush you or try to manipulate you. I'm just going to be here, consistent and honest, until you're ready to trust me. What if I'm never ready? Then I'll accept that. I'll still be the best father I can be to our child. I'll still help you however you'll let me. But I'll accept that we might only ever be co-parents and nothing more. Brittany studied his face, looking for deception and finding only sincerity. You're really willing to wait? Even though you could probably date anyone you want. I don't want anyone else. I want you. The simple truth of it made Brittany's breath catch. No flowery words. No grand declarations. Just honest, straightforward truth. Okay, she said softly. Okay, what? Okay, I'm willing to try. Not a relationship, not yet. But maybe friendship? Getting to know each other properly? Co-parenting classes? Things like that. Anthony's face lit up with a smile that transformed him from handsome to devastating. I'll take whatever you're willing to give. Friendship is a good start. And no more secrets. No more lies, even if you think they're protective. No more secrets, Anthony promised. Complete honesty from here on out. They clinked their teacups together like a toast. To honesty, Brittany said. To honesty, Anthony echoed. And to new beginnings. The press was gathered outside Richard's mansion when the police arrived with arrest warrants. Richard had refused to turn himself in voluntarily, so the authorities were taking him into custody. Brittany watched the news coverage from her apartment, Jennifer and Anthony on either side of her. She'd been afraid this moment would feel triumphant, victorious. Instead, it just felt sad. This was your home, Anthony said quietly, watching Richard being led out in handcuffs. It was my father's home, Brittany corrected. I just lived there. but it stopped feeling like home the day Richard moved in. On the screen, Veronica was also being arrested, screaming about how this was all a mistake, how she was a victim too. No one was listening. "The trial starts next week," Jennifer said. "Are you both ready?" "Ready as I'll ever be," Brittany replied. "I'm ready," Anthony confirmed. "Good, because this is going to be intense. Richard's lawyers will come after both of you hard. They'll try to make you look like the villains, like you conspired together to frame an innocent man. They'll bring up the pregnancy, suggest you and Anthony knew each other before that night. It's going to get ugly." "Let them try," Brittany said with steely determination. "I have the truth on my side, and I'm done being ashamed of being a victim." Anthony reached over and took her hand. This time, Brittany didn't pull away. She laced her fingers through his and held on tight. Marcus presented his final investigation report to Anthony and Brittany in Jennifer's office. It was comprehensive, devastating, and damning. "We found the original blackmail attempt," Marcus said, spreading out documents. "Richard's business partner tried to buy out his shares 3 months before the wedding. Richard needed cash fast, so he targeted Brittany specifically because of her inheritance. "He married me for money," Brittany said flatly. "I knew that, but having proof still hurts." "There's more," Marcus continued. "Richard has done this before. Not the drugging, but fraudulent relationships. He romanced a wealthy widow in Chicago 5 years ago, convinced her to name him in her will. Then she mysteriously died in a house fire. No charges were filed because there wasn't enough evidence, but the insurance investigators were suspicious." "He killed someone?" Brittany felt sick. "We can't prove it, but the pattern is there. Richard Whitmore is a con artist who targets wealthy women. You were his third known victim, but probably not his last if we hadn't stopped him."
Jesus, Anthony Breated.
"Brittany, you could have been, but I wasn't, because Maria recorded their conversation, because you provided evidence, because Jennifer fought for me. I survived. The DA is looking into the Chicago case now," Marcus added. "If they can prove Richard was involved in that woman's death, he'll never see the outside of a prison again." Brittany felt a strange sense of closure. Richard wasn't just a bad husband or a con artist. He was a predator, a dangerous man who destroyed lives for money, and she'd escaped him. "Thank you, Marcus," she said, "for everything you've uncovered. Just doing my job, ma'am. But I'm glad we could help." Anthony had walked Brittany home after the meeting with Marcus. Now he stood at her door, neither of them quite ready to say goodbye. "Do you want to come in?" Brittany heard herself ask. "Just for a little while. I don't want to be alone after hearing all that." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." Anthony followed her inside. The apartment was small but cozy. Brittany had decorated with secondhand finds and a few items Maria had saved from the mansion. It felt like her, warm and unpretentious. They sat on the couch, a respectful distance apart. "Can I ask you something?" Brittany said after a moment. "Anything. Do you really remember me from that night? Or did you just say that because you thought it would help?" Anthony was quiet for a long moment, gathering his thoughts. "I remember fragments. Your eyes, that's what came back first. Hazel with green and gold flecks. Terrified. Then I remembered your hair, brown with honey highlights, spread across the pillow. I remember thinking, even through the drug haze, that you were beautiful but broken. I remember wanting to protect you but not being able to move. I remember the smell of jasmine, your perfume maybe, or your shampoo. And I remember feeling connected to you, like we were both drowning and the only solid thing in the world was each other." Brittany's eyes filled with tears. "I remember your eyes too. Even though I couldn't see your face clearly, I remember your eyes. Brown, I think. Kind eyes. Confused eyes. Scared eyes that matched mine." "Dark brown," Anthony confirmed. "And yes, scared. So scared." They sat in silence for a moment, both processing the shared memory of their trauma. "I'm glad it was you," Brittany said finally. "I mean, I wish none of it had happened. But if it had to happen, if I had to be drugged and used and end up pregnant from that terrible night, I'm glad the other victim was you. Someone kind. someone who understands, someone who's fighting alongside me instead of running away. I'm glad too, Anthony said. Not about what happened, but about finding you, about our baby, about this chance to turn something horrible into something potentially beautiful. Brittany shifted closer to him on the couch. Not much, just an inch or two, but Anthony noticed. Progress. Tell me about your mother, she said. The one who raised you alone. I want to know more about the woman who made you into the man you are. Anthony smiled, and for the next hour he told her stories. About his mother Maria, who worked 3 jobs. About living in a 1-bedroom apartment where he slept on the couch until he was 12. About scholarship programs and student loans and working his way through college. About his first business success and using that money to buy his mother a house. About her face when he handed her the deed. Brittany listened, entranced. This wasn't just a billionaire with unlimited resources. This was a man who'd grown up with nothing and built everything. A man who understood struggle and survival and the dignity of honest work. A man who'd named his mother Maria, the same name as the housekeeper who'd saved Brittany's life. That's why you helped me, Brittany realized. Not just because you're the father of my baby, but because I remind you of your mother, a woman being victimized by a man with power. Maybe partly, Anthony admitted. But Brittany, I'd help you even if I didn't have that history. I'd help you because it's the right thing to do, because you deserve justice, and because, he paused, because I feel connected to you in a way I can't fully explain. Brittany leaned her head on his shoulder. Anthony froze, afraid to move and break the moment. Thank you for being patient with me, she whispered, for giving me time to learn to trust you. You're worth waiting for. They sat like that until Brittany fell asleep on his shoulder, exhausted from the emotional day. Anthony carefully adjusted her so she was lying on the couch, covered her with a blanket, and let himself out quietly. Tomorrow, the real battle would begin in court. But tonight, they'd made progress. They'd shared memories. They'd connected as 2 people, not just as co-parents or co-victims. And that was enough. The conspiracy had unraveled completely. Richard's crimes were exposed. His arrest was televised. His downfall was imminent. Brittany had her evidence, her legal team, and her strength back. She also had Anthony, not as a savior or a benefactor, but as a partner. Someone who understood her pain because he'd lived through it too. Someone who was patient with her fear and honest about his feelings. The trial would be difficult. The media scrutiny would be intense. The journey to full healing would be long. But they'd face it together. 2 survivors. 2 parents. 2 people learning to trust again. And in the end, that would be enough to win. Richard's trial is about to begin. Brittany and Anthony are learning to trust each other. But will the courtroom drama drive them apart or bring them closer? Episode 8. The Encounter, coming soon. Don't forget to subscribe to Urban Folks TV channel to see justice finally served.